Chapter 292. To waken fire drought demon. Could it be for the Li family? Kang Chon thought in his heart. The light in his eyes flickered. He had a pretty good impression of this state lord, but only if it didn't involve the Li family. Walking through a long corridor, Kang Chon followed that eunuch and once again came to the palace where he had met with the state lord in the first place. What a powerful aura! Is this a divine separation stage powerhouse? Kang Chon stared blankly at the palace in front of him, his deep eyes seeming to penetrate through the walls and see a magnificent figure inside. Unlike last time, on this arrival, Kang Chon's cultivation had changed drastically, and he had also comprehended the will. So he was able to feel the state lord within the palace through the wall, and the aura of erection was shocking. "Overlord, please," the eunuch said with a face full of respect. At the same time, the palace doors automatically opened, and Kang Chon stepped inside, seeing a middle-aged man turn around. That pair of deep gazes looking at him, stars illuminating in his eyes. This was the great Tang country lord. Kang Chon was slightly shocked in his heart. The divine separation stage was indeed a watershed in the cultivation world. Only those who had cultivated to the divine separation stage could be counted as an expert in the cultivation world. Anything else from the out-of-body stage was not enough to look at. Although the state lord did not deliberately give off a powerful aura, but that natural might made Kang Chon understand that he was afraid, that he would not be able to block a single move of the other party, and would even be killed by the other party in seconds. This was the absolute gap in strength. He was still far away from a powerhouse at the divine separation stage. Unless he waited for him to break through the outbreathing stage, he might be able to fight with him. HMM, 7th level of Yuanying stage. With your strength nowadays, you are also considered to be in contact with the cultivation world of the Flood continent. After you come back this time, you are going to go to the battlefield of the righteous devil, aren't you? Slightly sizing up Kang Chon, the state lord revealed a soft smile and invited him to sit down and talk together. Kang Chon was slightly stunned. Then he frankly sat down. The treatment this time was clearly different from the last time. Obviously, his strength and talent had conquered everyone, including the state lord, allowing him to be treated as an equal to him. State lord, same heavenly Dao sect disciple, just call me senior brother. The state lord waved his hand, interrupting Kang Chon's words, and said with a smile. Kang Chon nodded and continued, "Senior brother is right. After I come back to take a look this time, I will prepare to go to the Orthodox demon battlefield." This was an intention he had made a long time ago, as a disciple of the law enforcement elder. If he didn't go to the Orthodox demon battlefield, he would suffer a lot of ridicule. Well, the Orthodox devil battlefield is your true stage. Only by standing out from there will the Flood continent have a place for you. The state lord sighed. Back then, he was also a son of the heavenly Dao sect. But unfortunately, he lost in the Orthodox demon battlefield, which was why it was his turn to come here and become the lord of a country. Perhaps in the eyes of many people, the status of the lord of a country was very high. But they didn't know that after becoming the lord of a country, it also meant that you lost the qualification to compete for the Flood continent and would never be able to reach the top. Like the current heavenly Dao sect's law enforcement elder, guardian elder, and so on, all of them, these world-defying powerhouses, were invincible all the way down from the Orthodox demon battlefield. I don't know what senior brother is looking for me for this time. Kang Chon's inquiry interrupted the state lord's contemplation. He turned from his memories, and after a moment of contemplation, he said with some concern, "You just came back. I'm afraid that you don't know that your old home, Heavy Iron City, has been destroyed." HM, who did this? Kang Chon was stunned at his words, not knowing why. He had a bad feeling in his heart. The state lord shook his head and said, "It was not done by someone else. Well, I think it's better for you to go there personally. And by the way, help me take a look as well, because I have to guard the imperial capital. I can't go to explore it personally, so I can only trouble you." Kang Tian frowned. This reply made him more and more worried. His mind couldn't help but conjure up a bloody coffin. The one that was sleeping in the back of the royal mansion, in the underground cave. Could it be? Kang Tian's eyes stared. He felt that he really needed to make a trip to Heavy Iron City. Bidding farewell to the State Lord, Kang Tian greeted his grandfather and set off for a Heavy Iron City. Now, after the Li family's incident, he believed that no one in the Great Tang country would dare to touch his grandpa again. What's more, the State Lord still personally guaranteed that as long as he was in the imperial capital, no one would be able to touch his grandpa. Therefore, Kang Tian left with great peace of mind. Heavy Iron City, as where Kang Tian's old home was located. Today's Heavy Iron City had long since changed. When Kang Tian arrived above Heavy Iron City, what he saw was just a dark city shrouded in yin-chi. The streets and alleys within the city, there was not a single silhouette of a person. Silence and eeriness were the only atmosphere of this small city. What a terrifying yin-chi. Looks like my worries have come true. Kang Tian slowly descended from the air. His true essence exploded around him, forming a defensive shield against the yin-chi that permeated everywhere within the city. He sighed in his heart as he walked step by step above the familiar streets. This was the place where he grew up, with too many memories of him, and with Emperor Dan and Little Gold. It was also where they met. It was also here that he broke the curse of 9 foundation building failures and once again ascended to the throne of genius. And now, it had only been more than a decade, but this city had already become history, leaving only a ghost city that caused moroseness, giving Kang Tian a feeling in his heart that he couldn't tell. "Kid, be careful. The yin-chi of the underground cave is diffusing out. Perhaps that dry demon has awakened." A reminder from Emperor Dan came from his mind, and Kang Tian became even more cautious. On the side, Little Gold kept scanning the 4 directions, his face full of vigilance. Obviously, he also sensed the terrifying nature of this place. Walking through a section of familiar streets, Kang Tian realized that the houses within Heavy Iron City had not suffered any damage. Apparently, it was only because of the yin-chi permeating this place that caused those people to move away from here. For a Heavy Iron City, Kang Tian was very familiar with it. When they came to the old mansion of the former king's residence, a miserable scream came out from inside. There was also a black air current circling in the sky. The yin-chi here was far thicker than the rest of the place, like a yin cave. GG. There was the sound of a ghostly creature's sinister laughter, emanating from inside. It was like it was tearing at flesh and bone. That gnawing sound, making Kang Tian and Xiao Jin both have a scalp numbness and feel a coldness behind their backs. "Brother, let's just leave this place." Xiao Jin's face turned pale as he covered his mouth, not daring to take a step forward. Kang Tian frowned. He also felt a wave of creepiness, but he wasn't afraid. Even zombies he had fought. Was he afraid of some ghosts? He wanted to go in and take a look. This was after all where he grew up. He didn't want anything unclean in there. Kang Tian. Just as Kang Tian was about to go in, a figure flew in the sky in the distance. Kang Tian looked up and couldn't help but be a little surprised. The person who came was very familiar to him. It was the original Heavy Iron City Lord, Yong Zhenan, and the object of his admiration since childhood. City Lord, why did you come here? Kang Tian looked at Yong Zhenan with some surprise. More than 10 years had passed. Yong Zhenan's cultivation had also progressed quite a bit, and had already reached the 7th level of the Jidan stage realm. However, it was far from him. Even compared to Wang Tixiong, it was still far from him. I'm afraid that the Kang Tian back then didn't expect that there would be a day when his cultivation would shake off Yong Zhenan by a few streets. Shame on me. Heavy Iron City is gone. I'm now the Vice City Lord of Fendu City, responsible for monitoring the movements here. Yong Zhenen's face was full of bitterness. Then he said gruffly, "By the way, why did you come in here? It's very dangerous here. Many people have already died here." "It was the State Lord who asked me to come and take a look," Kang Chon said. "So it's the State Lord. Then I'll join you. I'm more familiar with this place." Yong Zhenen sniffed indistinctly. More than a month had passed. The matter of Kang Chon defeating the Li family's supreme elder had already spread throughout the entire Great Tang country. Nowadays, I'm afraid that only the State Lord could invite Kang Chon. I didn't think that the little guy from back then would grow to such an extent. Looking at Kang Chon in front of him, Yong Zhenen sighed in his heart. He couldn't help but think back to the scene when Kang Chon defeated Wang Chon in the King's Mansion martial arts arena. At that time, he had concluded that Kang Chon's future achievements would be unlimited. He just didn't think that the other party would grow up so fast. "Then I'll trouble City Lord," Kang Chon said with a smile. As the City Lord of Heavy Iron City, and having been monitoring the situation of Heavy Iron City since then, he believed that he could get quite a lot of useful information from Yong Zhenen. "No trouble," Yong Zhenen smiled and shook his head, then said, "In fact, I've often sent people into Pokerown and found that the root of all this Yin Qi, the back of the Royal Mansion's mountain. Only that none of the people that I've sent into probe have ever come out alive. Over the past few years, the spread of Yin Qi has become faster and faster, and now it has started to spread towards the outside of the city. I am really worried." Yong Zhenen's face was very grave. He was worried about the mutation in Heavy Iron City. He had already reported it several times. The King's Lord had also sent experts to probe the cause, but one by one, they all returned without success. As for the mountain behind the royal residence, by now it had become a forbidden place. Even some Yuanying stage powerhouses of the Great Tang Kingdom went in, but they were also dead or alive. The mountain behind. As Kang Chon listened, his blade-like gaze looked towards the back mountain of the royal mansion that was shrouded in darkness. It seemed that his guess had come true. That dry drought demon had awakened. The dry drought demon, once awakened, is an existence at the stage of merging. Kang Chon felt icy cold all over his body. He didn't dare to enter the back of the mountain even now. Da da da. Suddenly, a sound of footsteps came. Very, very slow. But in this silent ghost city, it was unusually loud. Kang Chon frowned. His eyes brushed and shot towards the gate of the old royal mansion. The sound was coming from inside. "What is it?" Yong Zhenen's face was also full of gravity. A little creeped out. "GGG," the gloomy laughter came out, also mixed with the sound of tearing and gnawing. Kang Chon's three people's faces became even more gloomy, all staring vigilantly at the gate of the old royal mansion. Right at this moment, a gust of gloomy wind blew through, and the door opened. Korching, korching, korching. As the door to the old mansion of the king's house opened, a sound of bones, breaking and tearing flesh and bones, clearly entered the ears of Kang Chon's trio. Immediately after, the trio saw blood splattering and flowing out of the door, steaming hot. Bones. A cloaked human head rolled out from inside, all the way to Kang Chon's feet, with a hideous face. One of the eyeballs on it fell out. Half of the nose was bitten off, and the entire face looked very blurry. What kind of ghosts and monsters? Quickly roll out to the monkey master. Xiaojin beside Kang Chon jumped in fright. Then he roared in anger and blasted out with a fist. The piercing light shattered the head at his feet. Kang Chon and Yong Zhenen both looked grave as they stared intently at the gate of the king's mansion. A black ghostly mist spread out from within, filling it with an eerie and terrifying aura. Suddenly, a black-tinged, bloody leg and foot stepped out from within the door. Pretending to be a god, Xiaojin couldn't hold back any longer, as he roared and blasted out a piercing golden fist of light, killing the leg and foot that poked out. Kang Chon stared in anticipation as he drew out the blood knife behind his back, his stern eyes glowing with a brilliant light. Yong Zhenan on the side was also ready to fight. At this time, the ghostly creature inside the door finally stepped out. He was an old man with a greenish-white face. A cloudy mist shrouded behind him, which seemed to be filled with ghostly shadows with open teeth and claws, making people's bones creepy. It's him. I didn't expect that a powerful Yuanying stage person would turn out to be like this. Yong Zhenan's face was horrified.